On the night of August 8th, 1963, a Royal Mail train was moving through the darkness of the English countryside on its way from Glasgow to London. In one of its carriages sat 128 bags stuffed with banknotes. The total value of those bags, in today's money, was approximately £67 million. The driver, a 58-year-old man named Jack Mills, was pushing the engine through the dark at speed, expecting nothing unusual on a route he had driven dozens of times before. Then a red signal light appeared at Brightigo Crossing. Mills found this strange. Signals at this crossing did not normally stop Royal Mail trains, but a red light was a red light. He braked and brought the train to a stop on an empty stretch of track in the middle of the night. For a moment there was silence, and in that silence, hidden in the bushes along the trackside, 15 men who had been planning this moment for months began to move. Welcome to World Unveiled. This is the story of the greatest train robbery in history, the one where they stole the train. The mastermind was a London criminal named Bruce Reynolds. Reynolds had received information from an insider within Royal Mail itself, a senior security officer whose name has never been publicly confirmed to this day. £8. It would be closer to £3 million, 12 times the normal amount. Both of these facts, not coincidences. They were the result of months of intelligence gathering by Reynolds and his team, who had been waiting for exactly this combination of circumstances. Reynolds assembled a team of more than 15 people. He brought in his own associates, experienced London criminals who knew how to plan and de-execute a large-scale operation without violence, but none of them had experience robbing trains. So he recruited a second gang called the South Coast. Oh, who did? The plan that emerged from these combined forces was meticulous. They would not simply board the train. They would stop it using a fake signal, separate the engine and first two carriages from the rest of the train, drive it to a bridge 1 kilometer away where their truck was waiting, unload the cash using a human chain in 15 minutes, and disappear before anyone knew what had happened. To drive the train, they brought a retired railway driver. And to stop it, they tampered with the signal at Brightigo Crossing, covering the green light with a glove and connecting a battery to operate the red light. The train stopped exactly as planned, the assistant driver climbing down to use the trackside telephone to contact the signal operator. The telephone line had been cut in advance. Before he could return to the engine, Gang members emerged from the bushes and grabbed him. Others climbed both sides of the engine simultaneously. When Jack Mills resisted, one of the gang struck him on the head with an iron bar. He lost consciousness at the controls. The front two carriages were uncoupled from the rest of the train. The retired driver, who was supposed to take the controls, looked at the unfamiliar engine and froze. He had never operated this particular type of locomotive before. The gang had to revive Mills at gunpoint and force the injured driver to move his own train 1 kilometer to the bridge. He complied. The train stopped at Brightigo Bridge. The truck was waiting below. The gang broke open the HVP carriage door. 5 postal staff inside were restrained, tied face down, and told not to move for 30 minutes. The bags were there, 128 of them. Their total weight was approximately 2.5 tons. The gang formed a human chain from the carriage down to the truck on the road below the bridge. They had 15 minutes before the absence of the train would raise alarms. In 15 minutes, they loaded 120 bags into the truck. The remaining 8 were left behind because time ran out. Everything had worked exactly as planned. Almost. As the gang left, one member told the bound postal staff not to move for 30 minutes or their lives would be at risk. That single statement was the mistake that undid everything. Police, when they arrived and heard this statement, calculated immediately that with a 30-minute head start, the gang could only be within a 50-kilometer radius of the robbery site. This gave investigators their search area. The gang drove 43 kilometers to a farmhouse they had rented 3 months earlier in a village near Oakley. They arrived safely. They listened to police radio frequencies on a VHF receiver and heard that the robbery had been discovered. For a brief period, they were celebrating. They played Monopoly on the floor of the farmhouse using real banknotes from the robbery. When they heard on the radio that police were searching within a 50-kilometer radius, panic replaced celebration. They had planned to leave Sunday. They moved the departure to Friday. On Thursday, they divided the money. The total was approximately £2.5 million. Each major gang member received roughly £150,000, equivalent to millions in today's money. Before leaving, they wiped every surface in the farmhouse for fingerprints. One person was assigned to burn the farmhouse after everyone left. He took the money and left without burning it. A neighbor noticed unusual activity at the farmhouse on the morning of August 8th and reported it to police after seeing the reward announcement on television. Police raided the farmhouse and found empty mailbags, Royal Mail equipment, and a truck that had been hastily painted yellow. They also found the Monopoly board. The game had been played with real stolen banknotes, and several of the players had not wiped their fingerprints from the board before leaving. Every major gang member had a criminal record. The fingerprints matched within days. 14 of the 16 gang members were arrested. 2 were never identified. The Royal Mail security officer who had provided the original intelligence was never identified. The retired driver who was supposed to operate the train and whose real name nobody had established was never found. The court described it as the crime of the century and sentenced the convicted gang members to 30 years imprisonment. Jack Mills, who was struck on the head while doing his job driving a mail train, never drove again. He died 7 years later. The bridge where the robbery took place is still known locally as Robbers Bridge. This is W. Orld Unveiled. Subscribe because the greatest heists in history are always the ones where the plan was perfect and one small thing was not.